It's a place to talk about history, talk about science with Enzo, dig into the great unknown. Just come say hello, have some fun. It's the Karen Show.
Who's that man in the fancy shirt? Who's the man with the cheeky smirk? Who has the answers? Who can explain? Well, it's Enzo the science guy. Enzo the science guy. Ask him how, ask him why. Enzo the science guy. He's Enzo the science guy.
It's time for history with Taylor. She's bright, smart, and has a heart for everything that's old. Her journalistic style is rare, a lady with a real flair for getting to the truth. So come on in, join us now for a chat about who, what, when, and how. It's history time with Taylor. Yes, it's history time with Taylor.
Watch The Karen Show. Friday nights, 6 p.m. Pacific. Saturday, 12 p.m. Australia. And for the UK, 2 a.m. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button so you don't miss out on upcoming content.
Ta-da! We're here. And may I, so Enzo's here, Laura is here, and waiting on Taylor, and waiting on Jess. A few different, nothing ever goes to plan, as you know, so
never does.
Never does, but they will be here, I think. And if not, oh well, you're stuck with us three.
I was enjoying the music.
I know, that's great.
Yeah, I know. I particularly like Taylor's song. Yeah, it's history. Hello, Carla. I just wanted to say there's a very special somebody in the chat. Where are you? Where are you? I'm going to get the first one. Just a second. I'll surprise everyone. Here we go. Look at that, Enzo.
There she is.
We did miss you last week, Tanya. We really did. We spoke about you a few times, and if you hadn't have been in here today, I think I would have panicked. Might have had to have jumped on a plane and gone to New Zealand just to check you were alive.
Jumping on a plane?
No, well, not right now. Seems not a but there you go. So who is here? I saw Erwin before. There's Erwin. Taylor. Taylor was around. She'll come back. And we've got Carla, of course, and Tanya and Caroline. There you go. Hey, Caroline. I think that's it for now. Jethro. Hello, Jethro. There you go. But yes, we were a little bit worried about you, Tanya. So just so long as you're all right. She shouldn't have shown up. Oh dear. No, we did. We spoke about you quite a bit last. Like, where's Tanya? Oh dear. Oh, Jeffro. And I know who that is. Hello, Kristen from Virginia City. Oh, beautiful Virginia City. I was missing it again. I miss it a lot. There must be something wrong with me. How can you miss a place you've only been to? Oh, I've been there a few times, haven't I, guys? I've been there a few times. I will be back, Zani said. Well, here we are. It's been a week. It's been a sad week. It's been a weird week, but probably more sad than anything else. So, obviously all over the news at the moment is the horrible crash there in Washington. It's just too sad. And then, of course, was it today, Enzo, the other medevac?
4 hours ago, we had another aircraft crash into Philadelphia, where it It had just taken off from an airfield, only went about 3 miles, and then crashed into a kind of residential area in Philadelphia. So
there'll be more. There'll be more
fire.
casualties.
There were casualties on the ground. That particular aircraft was a medevac style aircraft. It was scheduled to go to Springfield, Missouri. So of course, I had pilot, co-pilot, doctors, nurses, patients, stuff like that. So still kind of exactly, how many people were on board, they don't know. It also brings with it at the crash scenes, if they had like oxygen bottles and stuff like that, those are now like a projectile or explosive in a fire kind of a situation that the fire department has to be wary of. Because even if you just had one and just smashed the regulator off the top of it, it'll shoot off like a missile. So
yeah.
Look at that! There's a beautiful Taylor wearing a hat. Did you like my little thumbnail I made this week with you wondering about what hat Taylor might be wearing, and Taylor wondering if you'll talk about anything scientific?
Yeah, right on cue. I wore this just for Enzo.
There you go.
There you
Thank
go.
you. I actually did get comments about our little game show thing of rating the hats on some of the people last week. They thought that was very funny.
Yeah, no, Taylor's promised me when I get back. It's not if I get back, it'll when I get back to Virginia City. My hair should be longer by then, and Taylor's going to teach me how to do the old-fashioned hairstyles. I love the old-fashioned. I'd love to walk around all day with a, what do you call it, the 60s thing, the beehive.
Beehive?
Yeah.
I love a beehive. My mum used to wear
you'd rock a beehive.
Oh, I think I'd love a beehive, except my hair was long enough, but I got it cut. But once it grows again, I thought, I'm just going to wear my hair how I want it. But a beehive would be fun. I do like it. But I do love some of the hairstyles from back in the 40s and the 30s even. But the 40s in particular, the ladies used to do, like, it's got a name, that thing, the curl they do at the front, and then it goes.
Victory rolls?
Back. Victory rolls, yeah. I mean, I'd like to know. Yeah, I don't know. And when the day when men wore suits and howdy ma'am and tipped their hat.
Yeah, they look like men.
Yeah. I think President Trump should pass a bill that makes it mandatory for men and women when they leave home to go anywhere that women should dress in their finest with gloves and a hat, and men suits and a hat. Just bring it all back. Why not?
Yeah. It's amazing watching those old films and stuff of like the men. They're like at a baseball game. It's summertime. It's hot, and they still have the suit jacket and hat on. It's like they've got to be burning up.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I still remember when I was a very little girl. Oh, look, it's still implanted in my head, except I've gotten lazy. But it was a thing that, because I lived with my grandmother too. My grandmother, if I wanted to even just walk up to our local corner store, I had to be dressed appropriately, brush your hair, blah, blah, blah. And when I was very small, when we would just go out to visit family, we would be catching trains or trams. And, gloves, I had little gloves. I had painted leather shoes. I had to wear my little, like, Sunday best. If you left the house, you were dressed appropriately, even just to go into the city to go to the store. There was no, if anyone was dressed appropriately, it was like, oh, they're from the wrong side of the tracks.
I mean, there was nobody in their
pajamas, did you?
Hey, what was that? What was that, Taylor?
Oh, you never saw anyone out and about in their pajamas, did you? Like
you
do now?
No. Or shoeless. I mean, I hate shoes, but oh my goodness. Someone said to me the other day, I didn't have shoes on. I took one of my girls up. I just jumped in the car. She wanted to go to the shops. So I didn't intend to get out of the car at all. I was just driving her up. She goes, aren't you going to come in with me? I said, I've got no shoes on. I said, I'm not walking. That's feral. I'm not walking into the
feral.
Like, feral. Like, no. Like, so, I don't know. But I think younger people nowadays don't really care. Because it hasn't been, taught to
I was talking with some friends yesterday on a live stream. We were talking about this very thing about just general people's appearance that you see out and about. And it's like, this is a sign that they don't have like real life good friends, where a good friend would tell you, I don't know what look you're going for, but this should not be it. That kind of a thing where your good friends will stop you from making those big social, faux pas. And
Yeah, I wish they would just pull their pants up.
Yes, I've got this thing. It doesn't matter if a man or a woman is overweight. I don't care about that. That's their business. But the ones that you see get about and they're wearing a T-shirt, particularly men wearing a T-shirt and they've got big bellies and their belly, the T-shirt doesn't quite cover their belly.
Oh, yeah.
And their pants can come up over their belly. So they've got, and I think, oh my goodness, there has to be something that would, like you say, Enzo, if that was my brother, husband, whatever, I'd say, you are not going outside looking like that. In the garden where no one can see you out the back, do what you want, but you're not going down the main street or to the store looking like that. Get dressed.
Right. Cover it up.
Today, my daughter was wearing shorts. She needed to go up to the post office, but she had a T-shirt that was on that was longer, that was longer than her shorts. So initially I thought, you're not going out like that. You're not dressed. And she goes, I've got shorts on. And she pulled a T-shirt up. And I said, look, I'm not impressed, but all right then. Like, I'm very terrible. Oh, hello, Heather. Heather's here. Hey, Heather, I have to watch your episode. I tuned in to watch it last night. I woke up. This is how tired I get. I was watching starting to watch Heather's. I was waiting for her, actually. I didn't even start to watch it. I was waiting for Heather to come on. She had a premiere. And I don't know. I don't remember much except that I woke up a couple of hours later with my laptop computer still across my tummy in bed because I was in bed. I'd fallen asleep. I totally missed it. So if you were saying hello to me and realizing, because I would have technically looked like I was still in chat, I was asleep. So I'll have to watch it again. Sorry, Heather.
I was there.
You watched Heather?
Yeah, I managed to catch it. Yep.
Yeah. They go to some great places, Heather and Werner and Drew. I love it. I love wondering what they might find in some of these abandoned places. I said to Heather, it wasn't too hilarious because the computer gets hot when it's not breathing. That's probably what woke me up. Heather's gone to a few places that are like just time. I've got a question for you in a minute, Taylor. Like time, what do you call them? Time capsules. Like you walk in, like they're in the middle of nowhere. Some of these places they go to, completely like no one's lived in the place for years, but things are just as if they've just left and walked out. And sometimes, I reckon in that case, it must be someone has passed away, and the family just hasn't gone there to do anything after. For whatever reason, they've just left it, because I can't work out otherwise why there would be, coats hanging on hooks, plates and food still in the cupboard. But yeah, no, Heather has some great episodes if you're interested in that sort of urban exploring type thing. Taylor, I had a question. Yeah. In Virginia City, behind where the roasting house is, where anyone who hasn't been to Virginia City, so forgive me, but Taylor, I'm just asking Taylor a question. So out behind the roasting house, when you're walking down, like as if I was going to go to Connie's house and head down to the mills, where Julia Bulette's house was once, opposite, I think, anyway, it's at the back of something.
Is it, yeah, D Street and Union.
Yes, D Street.
This was called Sporting Row. That's where the ladies of the evening in their cribs were.
The lady of the evening. But that particular, the reason I'm asking, I'll get to it. The reason I'm asking the question is I've been watching another channel where a young man and his mate go to different places in old towns and go by the old maps of the day and where the people's outhouses or whatever used to be, because back in the day, the outhouse and the pit also was for rubbish. Like that's they did with all their rubbish and everything. Yep. And he goes and he finds these and he digs, and he finds treasure. like bottles. He's found dolls. He's found plates, all sorts. And I had a thought. Where Julia Bulette's home used to be, and along there would have been outhouses. There would have been those pits for sure. And I thought, has anyone ever thought, or I wonder how you would go about getting permission to try and work out roughly where her house was, which they've already worked out. They know where it was. But they've got a way of finding. I've watched these boys. They've got a way. They put sticks down into the ground so they can actually figure out where the outhouse and where the pits were. I would love to see if someone could dig up the pit. You never know what you could find. There could be clues.
Absolutely. So I'm glad you asked. That's been a new passion of mine this past summer. It's a little to now, but yeah, bottled. So like what you're talking about, the sticks in the ground, they call them bottle probes, and they're essentially long pieces of metal. And you'll do your homework first, right? You'll say, okay, this general area has what we believe to be some kind of historic significance, maybe for a particular reason, such as we learn about Julia Bulette or the ladies of the evening at that time, right? Or just, hey, this is a general place where people lived, and we know there was a house here. We don't know anything about them, but we get a sense, right? So you have a reason to do there, right? And then you go and you look at records. And you can look at old fire maps, or you can look at deed records at the county, or what have you. You can do your homework to get a better sense of a general idea, or look at old photos of where the outhouse might be. And why do you want to go look through literally old crap? Well, there's a couple reasons. One is, like you were saying, that's kind of where people discarded rubbish.
Yeah, rubbish.
You didn't have, your trash man coming in his big trash collector to come grab your bins at the end of the road every week, right? You did have dumps elsewhere, but you had to transport it. So the outhouse was an easy place, but also a story you hear a lot is if you didn't want the missus to know that you had been, and this is why you find so many old bottles in old outhouse sites. If you didn't want the missus to know that you were having a pull or whatever, you could go out there, have a little privacy, or if you were out on the town and you had your bottle with you, it was a good place to kind of discard the evidence where someone probably wouldn't be digging. And then the other thing is, if you're sitting on that hole, right, it's dark, it's in the middle of the night, you don't have lighting in there. Especially if you had just emptied out and discarded an old bottle in there. It's easy to, as you're moving about or dressing or undressing or lifting up your trousers or whatever, it's easy for things to fall out. So old coins or like pocket watches out of your vest or things like that. I've dropped my phone or my glasses or whatever in the commode. Same thing happened then, only, you had to really, you couldn't just reach into water to get it. Right? You had to really, yeah.
Well, I know when I'm watching that boy, I should find that channel and put it when I get off and stuff. I'll put that channel I'm talking about in the description. But he finds, look, he actually found a bottle. It depends how it's done, but he found a bottle that still had a label on it from 1869.
Yeah.
Like,
so the other cool thing about the outhouses is sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes it falling into that material, as it were, right? Trying to be proper here, but use your imagination. It can also kind of, just like how we see ancient fossils, sometimes, what do they call it? Coprolite, preserving things in it, right? It can actually work as a preservant under the right conditions. So you can find things like labels, or that's why bottles don't get smushed, or you can pull out old coins in pretty decent condition because it's been in this Shit.
Sealed off from all the oxygen so that it doesn't oxidize. So.
Yeah. Like, and the other thing he was finding too was seeds. And I'm like, seeds? But of course, from people's poo, because it doesn't. And of course, the poop's broken down over 100 years, but the seeds are there. And I'm like, whoa. So things like corn and all that, because you can't break corn down.
I was going to mention from a biology perspective, they could actually analyze that to discover what their common diet was.
Correct.
Yeah.
So. Like, but I would love, because I was watching that, I thought, I'd love to do a few of those in Virginia City. Might even find, like, back in the day, like where the what was the name of the bar that the black people had there? That was in D Street, wasn't it? Because there's a sign for it. It was behind, so it was where Julia Bulette was. It was near her, because there's that big sign now that says, like, to do it there, and wonder what kind of treasure you might find. Like, it's a treasure. There's all old bottles, and in one of them he found a chamber pot, and like, and I just think, it tells you a story. Like, yes, it's old bottles, but it's got the name of what it was. So you can even tell what kind of medicine people were taking back in the day. Yeah. Like, this family must have. There was shoe polish. There was, and some of them still had polish in the bottles. Like, it was, it fascinates me. So I'd love to do a Julia Bulette or the Ladies of the Night type dig and find out what they've got there, but I don't know how to get permission to do that. I can't just go there and start digging a hole. I'd get in trouble. What are you doing? I'm from Australia. Nothing.
Yeah, right. It's for history. No,
history.
So Karen, yeah, you're right. You do have to get permission, but luckily my house is historic, so I've got lots of places. I haven't even dug around my house.
We can dig one in
you come, we'll start digging. Yeah, no problem. And then, but what the site you're talking about was called the Boston Saloon, and that's pretty much, it's essentially catty corner from the site where Julia Bulette is believed, to have had her crib. So it's just a few paces away. And it's behind where the bucket, like you said, where the bucket of blood is now. And they did do an archaeological dig there, as you said, and they pulled out probably the coolest bottle in Virginia City's history. I mean, I love old bottles, so it's hard to say which one is the coolest, but this one's pretty rad. And we actually have it on display at the Fourth Ward School Museum, which is where I work, for anyone that doesn't know that. So we actually have it on display, but it is they found there at the site of the old Boston Saloon on D Street, the world's oldest bottle of Tabasco sauce. And yes. And so when they found that, they did a full archaeological dig. And when they found it, it was in pieces, but they have put it back together. I believe they found every piece, if not every piece. It when I look at it at the museum, it looks full. And they reached out to Tabasco, and Tabasco didn't even have one this old. They had just a little nuanced here. They had some that were a little older, but they didn't say Tabasco on them, because at the very beginning they didn't put their name embossed in the bottle, just on the label. Yep. But this is the oldest bottle that says Tabasco on it, embossed in the glass.
Date range was the bottle, do they think?
I don't want to misquote it, so let me look that up for you real quick and get back to you. But 1860, I believe. It's within the first.
That's fine. I was curious.
It's within the first few years of Tabasco starting. I can say that confidently. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Look, Kristen says she.
Tell us more, Kristen. That's so cool. What was that like?
Yeah. What was it like?
Alice.
Yeah. Kristen is from Virginia City. If you can't tell, she's got
like you were saying. Oh, sorry, cut you off, Karen.
No.
Like you were just saying. Like you were saying, it when you do that, it tells you about the people and the place and the time. So a lot of there's not a lot known about the Boston Saloon per se, as far as in writing. There's a little bit known about the proprietor, Mr. Brown, but really a lot of what we can surmise about the saloon is based on that dig and what they found there. So you had to be if you're serving Tabasco sauce, which comes out of, I believe, Louisiana, is that right?
Yep.
You know, states and several states away, if you're serving this brand new, you know, hot product, literally, right out the gate, you've got to be a pretty, you know, modern establishment. And they found, you know, so it gives you a lot of context about how, like, on the cutting edge this establishment was.
Stuff like that is gold from an archaeological perspective, because it's got a hard date range where you know it's from 1860, 1863, whatever it is. So that means at that level, everything below it is older. So you've got a hard range of this is this time frame. So, you know, stuff below that's going to be even older. So that's great to have something like that that you find.
Yeah. So when you come to visit finally, Enzo, I'll be happy to show you at the museum. And of course, Karen, next time you come, I'll point it out.
Yeah.
And we have a virtual tour. I'll put it in the chat. We have a virtual tour where you can walk around the whole Fourth Ward School Museum. So I'll put it in the chat. If anyone wants to see it, you can see it on your computer.
I want to see it.
Taylor, Kevin is saying hello to you, as was Brandon.
Hi, Phil. Hi, Kevin.
There you go. But yeah, look, that's the thing about Virginia City, and I know I probably bore everybody with Virginia City, but that's what it's like, Enzo. You go there, and it doesn't matter what you're interested in per se. If history-wise, there's everything. There's everything from the mines to the buildings like the school and some of the buildings in town. There's the people themselves that are I think they're super friendly. You get your odd idiot, but that's all right. We have idiots everywhere.
They still love you.
You almost have to live there to know who they are. but they're very rare. And but mostly Virginia City is just, it's like a little time capsule itself, really, despite the fact there's now cars and things come through. Like, that's what I mean. And Taylor went for a walk once. I remember you told me you found an arrowhead somewhere, Taylor, and I can't remember. It was an arrowhead, wasn't it, that you found? And I said, didn't you take it? I would have put it in my pocket and taken it. No, she was a good girl because she was on someone else's property.
Story. Yeah. So that's two different stories. So the thing that I left was an oyster shell. So Virginia City in the 1860s and 1870s was one of the richest cities, if not in the world, certainly in America. It was one of the largest cities between Chicago and San Francisco, and even that's debatable that Virginia City was even larger at certain points in its history. Certainly larger than Los Angeles, which was just a little blip at the time. But so you had all these overnight millionaires and so the richest people on earth. It was known as the richest place on earth. So you had a lot of importing of fine goods, such as the hot new product Tabasco and the finest champagnes, but also oysters. So what they do is they'd get oysters imported, and from San Francisco, they'd put them on sawdust and put them in oyster boxes, and then ship them to Virginia City. And what's kind of cool, I'll have to give credit where credit is due. I learned this from Ron James, a historian. He and his wife worked on the archaeological dig that we're discussing here at the Boston Saloon. And anyway, Ron James told me that if you find an oyster shell that is smaller and round in Virginia City, that's from the 1860s, right when during the Comstock Lode era, the first big silver strike. And then there was a second major silver strike in the 1870s, and at that time they had oysters imported, but they were more like elongated, kind of like what you'd get on the half shell today. And so if you find a small round one, you know it's an early oyster shell as far as Virginia City's history goes. So I found that on someone's property as I was walking on the outskirts of it and coming down from a public hike, and had permission to walk on their property, but I did find it and I wanted to take it home so bad because it was an early one. and I have one, but it wasn't as beautiful as this. And but I didn't, so I just put it in a nice place where it wouldn't get stepped on, and I left it there. But the thing I did find was an arrowhead, and I did find that at actually my neighbor's house, and it was just sitting in her front lawn. And I didn't take that home either. I just picked it up and I said, here's an arrowhead I found. So I gave that to her. So yeah, you can just, I mean, history just seeps up out of the ground here. It's just everywhere.
Literally, like it could, or you can fall into the ground. But I know you're silly. I think they've just, I think, is there still some open mine shafts in different places? But I think they've been pretty good at covering them all up, haven't they?
Yeah, so for safety reasons, different agencies, whether it's our federal government or state government or our local government, or just we'll block them off in different ways. A couple reasons. People do try to explore them. You do not want to explore a mine alone. You do not want to explore a mine without permission or without extreme precautions. And basically, you don't want to, unless you are an absolute expert.
Yeah. That
Enzo, because you lose air quality and you can suffocate and you won't even know. You have no idea that the air quality is not sufficient to sustain life, and you'll just pass out and just gone. Not to mention, these were built 150, 160 plus years ago. These timbers can rot and fall. We've had sinkholes that swallow cars and things like that. It's dangerous, so you don't do that, right? But yeah, I mean, sorry, I lost my train of thought of like why you shouldn't go into a mine. What were we talking about?
That's a lot of good reasons why you shouldn't go into a mine.
Yeah,
I know I did. I can't remember if I put it up. If I did one already, I might have. I lose track of episodes. I do, but I know that I was looking at the sinkhole that came at the Gould and Curry mine there in front of the school in Virginia City.
Yeah, that's what
that swallowed a car. That was a big sinkhole.
Huge.
That's long. Yeah. So I mean, that's a thing. When was that? The 80s.
Right by the school.
Yeah, right in the middle of the road, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know.
It swallowed the school principal's car.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was
all the school children rejoiced.
Yeah, well, they probably
would.
It is
the childhood dream, huh? But I don't know. I think people like their principals here.
But I think about the fact Virginia City is built atop of so many mine like shafts, and like where the Gould and Curry. So the Gould and Curry mine, for those people who don't know, that was Mr. Mackey, John Mackey's. That was his mine basically. But yeah, that was capped and all that sort of thing, and they built the road over it and all that sort of thing. But boom, there you go. There's still bodies there in that shaft down. I can't remember how many. I did do it. It's a fair way. They're a fair way down. But yeah. What happened?
Oh,
have they got a sinkhole in a truck? What? What are you talking about? Live footage of the plane crash. I don't want to see that. Enzo's been looking.
Yeah, I was watching that before the show. That's there's actually a lot of civilian footage. There's somebody's Ring doorbell camera that caught this amazing picture of it coming in, and it's like, wow, that's horrifying. It looks like a missile coming in. It's crazy.
It's just, I often think I've got it doesn't, they don't fly over all that often. Maybe once or twice a day I'll hear a jet fly over, and I often think to myself, don't crash, because I like my garden. Don't, but the worst one I can ever really remember in all of my lifetime is the Lockerbie one in Scotland. That was horrendous. Some of, I don't know how old people are in the chat or whatever, but that was pretty bad. You'd know that one, wouldn't you, Enzo? The Lockerbie disaster.
Oh yeah, remember that one.
Yeah. It's Jess. Hello, Jess.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. I finally made it.
You did. How's your daughter? Jess was postponed because her daughter. Yeah, it was. Her daughter was going on a little road trip and kind of got something happened with the car. So, mummy to the rescue, obviously. You don't look
Yes.
old enough to have a daughter that's driving a car. But there you go.
Well, I have a 21-year-old who's moving to Denver as we speak.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh, are you sad?
Well, of course. I'll miss her like crazy, but she's got to go do her own thing. And hopefully her car will stay intact.
Yeah. Oh, well, Dee in the chat is just talking about someone who went into a sinkhole a couple of days ago in his truck. I haven't heard about that here, but
I'm seeing a story in Japan of this from a couple of days ago. Is that the one she's talking about?
I don't know. Haven't heard. Yeah. Well, she said America, so I don't know. I don't know. But there you go. Sinkholes, that'd be a bugger. I heard a story once a long time ago about a sinkhole who opened up in someone's house or something and was really, really huge, and they never got the fella back. I'm like, oh, that'd be my worst nightmare. That's probably my worst nightmare, that a hole opens up and swallows you, but you're not dead.
Directly
And you
under
just
your
look at the
house.
bottom.
Yeah, there's some kind of witchcraft going on there. It seems that's something bad.
Oh, Putty Cat.
He's biting me,
That's
so this is what I do to get him to stop biting me.
Oh, he wanted
attention.
attention.
Yeah. So I give him overload of attention, and then he leaves me alone. See? There you go.
Hi, Carby. I call carburetors and coffee carby because that's what we call a carburetor in Australia, the carby. You know, do you call them a carby in America or just the carburetor?
No, we just say carburetor.
Yeah.
Oh, well, all right. Well, just if you ever come to Australia, it's a carby. Oh, dear. Yeah, there's been so much going on. But, yeah, I'll thank you for talking to me about that, Taylor, about the archaeological digs, because that's the thing. So much. Like, I had no idea. Like, I knew about outhouses, but when I was a little girl, our outhouse, like in the 60s, 50s and 60s, it was buckets. So the poo man would come with his truck and collect the bucket and deliver you an empty bucket.
No, you had that here in Virginia City too, right? You use your chamber pot, and you had your chambermaid come.
And my nana had a chamber pot, and she'd go and empty it out into the outhouse in the morning, because obviously you don't want to go out into the outhouse at night if you don't have to. But yeah, I still remember all that stuff from being a kid. But I never realised that back in the day they had pits, so it was like a rubbish pit as well, and it makes sense because then you can cover it in. But yeah, watching that channel and seeing that, I never knew that was a thing. That's why I want to come back to Virginia City and we'll dig in your backyard.
Yeah, I got into digging this past summer. So
yeah, actually, we'll get a few boys from the local saloon somewhere to dig the hole, and we'll just get in the bottom when it's gotten down far enough, and we'll do the.
That sounds better. Yeah,
and they can dig the holes.
Yeah.
That's what they're good for, digging holes. And opening jars, lifting heavy objects. I tell you what, you come in handy, you men folk.
Well, at least we're good for something, I guess.
And how have you been, Jess, apart from your daughter today leaving you and making you sad?
Oh, we're just super busy getting her all packed up. Denver's about 10 and a half hours away from us, so It was quite a jaunt, and then trying to get all of her stuff moved. So, but it's good. I did bring you a present.
Oh.
Aw.
What is it?
Well, the last time I was on, you showed me your Indian doll with the beautiful ribbon dress.
Yeah.
Yes. So I brought you some of my regalia today to see if you wanted to.
Yes,
Well, yeah, first of all, just for fun, I went and dug up an old picture of me, so don't laugh. This is from when I was like 11. But I had a ribbon dancer costume at that time, so you can see what mine looked like. Let's see if I can get it.
Hang on. Hang on. If I remove everybody, hang on. I'm going to remove everybody.
I can't hear anything.
You can't hear me because I took myself away. I'm an idiot.
Yeah. There we go.
How cool's that? Well, I'll bring everybody else in because I didn't realise that we still can't hear everybody. What do you reckon, guys?
I love it.
How old are you?
Yeah,
there?
I was sitting here the other show talking about Native Americans and Indians and stuff, and there you go. Gee, this one. It's exciting.
Yeah. So I was about 11 or so when this picture was taken. I had not been gifted my full regalia yet because you have to earn it. So I did bring you a few things. So when I turned 13, I got my beads.
Nice.
Wow.
Oh, lovely.
Oh, they're pretty. That's pretty.
Yeah.
What's that made of, Jess? What I mean,
So
the colours.
So we've got a conch shell, of course, and then these are buffalo bone, all of the white beading.
Yep.
And then these are handmade silver beads in between, and then the blue ones are actually glass.
Wow.
Yeah. And then deer leather.
That's so
Right?
cool.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And then when I turned 16, I got my braid wraps, and they're made of otter.
Oh, poor otter.
Oh,
I hope they
pretty.
just died a natural death.
So, Blackfeet braid their hair from here and then down, and we wrap our braids. Right? So with a,
Wow.
Very cool.
yep.
The girls, this is a stupid question because I don't know. Whenever I see dancing, it's generally the men. Do the girls dance too, don't they? Like, obviously, if there's
Yes.
a ribbon dancing girl, they do, but
Yeah.
but there you
So,
go. Who's up?
there's different kinds. So I was a plains dancer. So with the women's dancing, it's kind of interesting. So depending on how you sway your dress or the regalia on your dress or your shawl that you carry over your arm is how your specific dance goes. So I was a plains dancer, so it's like a grass dance, and you have your shawl and everything on your regalia and your ribbons move like the grass, so it sways back and forth.
That explains it. I watch that
Right?
stuff all the time.
Yeah. And then you've got the fancy dancers, which are the ones that kind of do that jump back and forth, and their shawl and their regalia has to bounce back and forth. And then you have the jingle dancers, and those are the ones that have all those beautiful bells all over, and they bounce. They bounce it to the beat of the music, so the bells are...
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then you have the grassland dancers, and they have a lot of regalia in their hair, and it has to move back and forth, and their stuff moves like this. Like the grass getting winded in the prairie. So that's how that goes.
Carby,
But I did find some...
Tribe.
Blackfeet.
Blackfeet. I like that.
Yep.
Blackfeet. Yeah.
Blackfeet.
Yeah. Actually, Jethro, I'll let Jess answer this because I went on a rant the other week, and as to what I call them, I say Indians because growing up, that's what they were. And then when I went to America I met a few different people. They also said they refer to themselves as Indians.
Yes.
And so I'll let Jess back me up. The same as our Australian Aboriginals hate being called Indigenous. They like to be called Aboriginals.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a woke thing, I think. But I'll let Jess confirm that.
It's absolutely a woke government PC thing. We were never asked to be called Indigenous Americans, and the only ones that will yell at us, yell at people about not saying it, are the people that made it up. It's not even the Indians themselves. We're all quite fine with Indians. We weren't asked, what do you want to be called? And we said this. It's just a government PC thing. It's not well liked.
So,
if you want to call us that, you can, but it's not needed. I did have one more thing to show you. In my hunt for some of my in the hunt for some of my regalia, because I haven't actually danced in quite a while. I was digging through some of my old stuff, and I found my braid ties from when I was a toddler, and I thought you might like to see them because they're really cute. So they're just little.
Oh, look.
Oh, my God. Look at that.
Little teeny tiny things. I know. I thought they were super cute. So, yeah, there you go.
Oh. Hey, can I ask you a question, Jess? And if the answer is no, that's fine. But when I do get to America, and I plan to get Enzo to get me to come and visit you, but I'll call myself a white person because I'm a whitey. I don't know. I'm a cracker. Isn't that what we get called? I'm a cracker. I don't know. Are we allowed to go? I guess we are, but I don't know. Like, would you be able to take me along to see someone in your tribe do it like a dance? I would love to sit there and watch that, but I know that it's probably also a spiritual thing, so maybe I'm not allowed to. But I would love to see it in person.
So, absolutely. First of all, I wouldn't actually be able to take you to see another member of my tribe do it because I am out of my tribal area. My tribe is from the upper Montana, Canada area. There's not actually very many Blackfeet in my area, but I absolutely can take you to an intertribal powwow. So I was adopted in by some members of the Delaware tribe. And that's why I was raised dancing at powwows. And the largest intertribal powwow that happens in the United States literally happens about 15 minutes from my door.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So if you ever get the opportunity and you want to go see the huge intertribal powwow, you'll have to come in the last weekend of May.
Okay.
Because that's when it happens. However, if you can't come during that time, there's other smaller intertribal powwows that happen kind of all the time, all throughout the spring and the summer and into the fall. So,
well, May is a good time to come to America anyway because the weather is nice. So I was thinking about that and thinking I'll probably aim for a May trip. I'm who knows, but I would, that would just be brilliant to see that. Reality. Like I can watch all the videos.
Right.
It's not the same. It's not the same as feeling the atmosphere. And for me, it would be an honor to be talking to people and stuff because I don't know. It's just, I just think it's awesome.
I wish they would do them here. I've never heard them advertised here, but I wish they would because I love watching that. I watch it on YouTube.
Yeah. Oh, hey, Joe.
Hello,
Joe. I have to call Joe and have a chin wag. I haven't spoken to Joe for ages. I'll get around to it, Joe. I'll try and get around to it tomorrow. Because when I finish my live stream today, I want to go outside and finish off my gardening. And then my garden will be perfect. Well, I love being outside. I love being with all the little animals. In Australia here, I want to talk to you again in a second, but I just wanted to say something. In Australia, we've got a cane toad. And the cane toads were brought from, I can't remember where, some far off place, because cane toads are supposed to eat a bug that can eat your cane. I don't know. But what the people who brought it into the country didn't realize that they shouldn't really be in this country because it's a different environment and they don't have any natural predators to kill them off here. So they're abundant, like they're literally invaded everywhere, and they do destroy because if our wildlife eats them, they're toxic. Dogs eat them, they can die, things like that. Silly old me. I've got a ton of them in my backyard, and I think they're cute. I won't kill them. And there's little baby ones, and there's big, and they're really weird looking. Well, they're ugly, but they're kind of cute, and I just can't kill them. So I go out into my backyard, and I've got ponds everywhere because I've also got frogs, like normal frogs. And I was told that the cane toads will kill the normal frogs. Well, in my backyard, that doesn't happen. I've got a frog pond where there's actual frogs. I've got green tree frogs that are in my trees, and I've got the cane toads. They all seem to get the idea that if you live at Karen's house, you just got to get along. I love nature. I think they're cute, except when I pick them up, they pee because they get a fright. So I pick up the cane. I haven't got any really, really big ones. The biggest one I've had is probably as big as my hand. And I picked him up one day and he went, and then he went, pee. I went, ew.
Yeah, that's what
I put him back down. But there you go. So Jess, that's really super cool. I love the what was it? Beaver tails. Beaver?
Yeah. No,
Beavers.
the otters. Otter tails.
Otters. And that's
Otters.
because it's Canadian, because otters are in Canada, aren't they? Is that right?
Well, yes. Yeah, otters are kind of revered by my tribe. Actually, just a minute ago, somebody asked on the chats how the Blackfeet got their name, what it meant. And it's actually an interesting story. The Blackfeet tribe were nomadic. They followed a big circle path from the bottom of Canada, and then it would wrap down through Montana and then back up again. They would follow the buffalo, so they always had food. And they were called Blackfeet because they burnt the prairie off in front of them. So the bottom of their moccasins would always be black from the soot. Now, interestingly enough, the Blackfeet revered the women of their tribe. They were actually held a little bit more lofty than most tribes. And women never had to walk. They got to be on the horses or whatever rigs they had done up. So the women didn't have the Blackfeet, just the men.
I was going to say, was it something silly like they just, had dirty feet? But kind of.
They had black moccasins, yeah, because they would, the prairie grass in Montana gets super high, and sometimes it gets unpassable in places. So they would literally just burn it off in front of them while they followed the buffalo on their usual route around. So they were kind of nomadic. They were just travelers.
The Blackfeet, did they have much like, because I'm still studying the different Indian tribes, so I've definitely looked into the Navajo, but does the Blackfeet have the same similar, obviously probably not the same, but the same, like the worlds, the different worlds, like the spiritual side of things? Is it very similar in ways to, like, say, the Navajo, where they have and it was very the women, as you've said, the women were held up here, like it was matriarchal system until Christians come along and said, "Oh, believe in God." But it was women and the earth. Was the Blackfeet similar in that way?
Fairly similar. Of course, they had their own creation and, their own stories and everything. The Blackfeet are kind of an interesting tribe. I'm part of a research group with my DNA right now. The Blackfeet tribe, they have found, has the oldest blood they've ever traced. And we're the only tribe that they found that didn't come over the strait into the Americas. They've tracked us. We came from before it was the Polynesian Islands, before the Hawaiians were there. We came from that area and then came down by ship to the bottom of the Americas, landed, and then we traveled all the way up through. So all of us have these little teeny tiny bits of South American blood in us. I have like 1%. I have like 1% Yucatan. Because somewhere along there, somebody in my past married someone who was Yucatan and took them with them.
Wow.
And they traveled up through and then ended up in the Montana area. It's really interesting. When I signed up to have my DNA tested, I got thrown into this big batch group to be tested out, and every few months or so, they send me new information, and they're literally tracking the path and trying to figure out how we got to where without coming over the strait. So we just have really weird blood for some reason. But it's
That's amazing. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's
you're
super
usually
interesting.
the oldest people, and that you've come from down. So I just made a joke and said Mayan blood, but you would have had to have come up through there if I'm thinking of a map in the correct way.
Yeah. So they've
America?
spotted us in like the Hawaiian island chain, the Polynesian islands. But we were there before the Polynesians were, so we don't have that same blood. That's where they've gotten us back to so far. They're still trying to track it back from there. But they know that we came out of that island chain, and then we came down by boat, landed at the very bottom of South America, well, what's South America now, and then traveled up the coastline, and then up into Central America, and then up to where they ended up at the bottom of Canada.
Cool.
So,
While we're
Enzo's
talking,
put
if you
something
wanna-
here. Yeah.
if you want to share this video, this is just shots from the intertribal powwow in Oklahoma back in August that Jess was talking about.
Yeah, that's
Figured
great.
If we wanted to like watch this a little bit while we were talking, I mean, that's up to you. But
Yeah, I can put it on.
it's like a 4-hour video of like the whole day. But while we were talking, I didn't know if anybody wanted that or not.
That's pretty cute. Look at all the pretty colors.
Yeah, well, the
Yeah.
design is just amazing.
No, it's
on
amazing.
Every
Just-
outfit is.
and I assume that there's
I
like a
love-
competition here. I see a lot of people wearing numbers.
yeah, this is a
It's,
competition
really-
one. Yeah, I never competed. I just danced
Look
to
at that.
dance.
Look at that.
Um,
That's all
Yeah.
handmade, correct?
yeah, everyone's
Yeah.
costumes are handmade. Yeah.
Beautiful.
I shouldn't say costume. It's regalia is what they like to call
Regalia,
it. So,
yeah.
yeah.
I was thinking back to when I was younger. I used to do a lot of sewing. I'd make my own dresses. I'd make my boys' pants and shirts, and I just don't bother sewing anymore. To be quite honest, I think if I pulled out the sewing machine, I probably could get back into it. But it was so quick and easy just to make up a few little pairs of pants and a couple of T-shirts, and I'd make a dress, with elastic in the top, like easy peasy. But I can't be bothered anymore. Oh, that's pretty.
Yeah, I love the beading. The
beautiful.
beadwork is beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've made my own
I don't know.
moccasins.
Oh,
I
look
made
at the
my own
little one.
moccasins. They're very hard to make.
Look at the little boy. They're so cute.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, I don't know. Mind you, if I had a time machine and went back in time, I don't think I'd like to come face to face with any of the boys on their horses.
No, scary.
I go, no, don't.
They're very fierce.
Yeah.
Very Yeah.
The gentlemen there that have the big plumes,
Yeah.
those are called fancy dancers. And the way they dance, if you watch, it looks like they're kind of scooping at the ground. They're actually imitating prairie chickens and how they would hunt through the grass. Yeah.
Well, some of the dancing,
Really?
that is what they're doing, isn't it? There's different headdress and stuff. They could be a wolf, or they
Yes.
could be it depends upon what they're doing. But yeah, I've seen that dance where they scoop down and do different things.
Yeah.
And our Aboriginals are similar in their dancing too. You know, that they also dance in that regard to animals and things. So I don't know. I think it's just such a shame. Like, obviously it hasn't gone to the wayside. People are still it's frozen. People are still doing this, and it's brilliant. But he doesn't look too impressed, or is he just puffed out?
Sorry, waiting his turn.
I want to go. I just want to go. Hang on. I'll just take it off for a sec. Just the colors.
Mm-hmm.
Just the colors. Look at that.
I know, it's
I like
amazing.
the yeah. All right, I'll remove it for a second. Hang on. But don't take it away.
That beadwork is so intricate.
It is. It's gorgeous.
Oh, yes.
Like
It's so hard to do.
It is, because I've done it.
It
It takes a lot of practice.
Just so much in history that I won't have a life. My life isn't long enough and won't be long enough to look into everything I'm interested in, if that makes sense. Like, I'd have to live to be 1,000 for me to be able to get to. I want to go to South America, for example, and see the Pikachu. I want to say Pikachu. Pikachu's what's the name of those? What's it called? The place down. Thank you. Pikachu.
I don't know. There might be a Pokestop there.
What was that?
There might be a Pokestop there in this day and age.
Yeah, there could be some Pokemons there, but yeah, I'm just fascinated, and it kind of makes me happy when I see people talking about history and trying to keep people's memories alive, trying to keep ways of life, like reminding people what the way of life was back in the day. And I do have a bit of a giggle at younger kids nowadays. You hear them talking as if like nothing existed before they did. Right. But I just thought, you guys have no idea what you're actually missing. I think from my perspective, when I was a kid, and I think Taylor would have been even the same, and all you guys, when I was a kid, we were encouraged to be outside in nature, like make a cubby house, go exploring. And even if it was boring and you were just sitting outside making a mud pie, we were encouraged, and you'd walk to school. And it reminded me of stories like, I walked 1,000 miles in the snow to get to school. But we did, maybe not 1,000 miles. But, and I think nowadays everyone drives, gets dropped off, catches a bus, comes home from school, comes inside, and you talk about anything like we're talking about here with Jess, it's like, oh, yeah, well, I want to go and watch Netflix, or I want to play my computer games or whatever. And I just hope maybe 100 years from now, all of this stuff hasn't been lost just by perhaps the younger generation coming through now that doesn't really seem to care about history. No one. Don't. And it's really sad, because it's all going to be.
As long as they keep the traditions like the powwows going and all this stuff going, that the further generations will see, it'll continue if we continue it,
Well, that's, Thank you, Jethro. Go and enjoy your dinner. Hi, Debbie. Hi. It's just, I don't know. I just, like I said, the origination of my little channel here was really just so that if I drop dead, my kids and my grandchildren can find this and go, geez, Nana, she was a nut job. Like, do you know what I mean? Look, she went there. Or
Nana has weird friends.
Right.
Yeah. But it's sort of grown from that. So, and I have fun. I mean, look at this. Like, I've got Taylor, beautiful Taylor that I've met. I'm talking to Laura. Like, you guys are all the way on the other side of the world, literally. And here I am in Australia, but we can chat, and we've all got similar interests. Like, I'm rapt that Enzo introduced me to Jess, because now I can ask Jess all my questions when I get confused about things and know whether or not I'm being appropriate. And Taylor. Like, I love Virginia City, and Taylor, as young and cute as she is, she knows way too much. If I've got a question, she's so clever. And if I've got a question, I can throw it at Taylor and say, hey, I can't quite find something on this. What do you think? And Taylor will throw me a link. Like, here's a territorial enterprise article that talks about what you're talking about, or there's this book or whatever. I've made such a beautiful group of friends on here that I just, and Joe dropped in before. He's gone again now, but Joe,
He's lurking.
oh, maybe, but from NT, he's great too, because I haven't spoken to him for a little while because, everything's been as it is. But just people that are interested in the history. Joe's been doing deep dives into research and stuff, which is beaut, because that's also good. And yeah, I've lost interest a little bit in the paranormal to the point where it's kind of like, more BS. Like, I watch things, I go, another scratching whatever, another, the app said blah, blah. Like, I'm kind of over it, but it doesn't mean I'm not looking or I don't believe. It's just I'm sort of like, there has to be a different way to look at that. And as I said, I did say to Enzo, I just don't think in regard to finding out that sort of thing on a spiritual level, I just don't think we're supposed to know. Full stop. That's it. So it's kind of like, I don't know. Something can happen, things can happen, but now I kind of question what it is. I sort of think.
Certainly not everyone is ready for that.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think, you know what I want to do? I want to go down to South America with good friends and try that. What's it called? Agawafa or something? It's that thing you take and you. Yeah. Wouldn't that be awesome? Because apparently you see aliens and all sorts, and you have conversations. And I'm thinking, but it's because I've heard people talk about it, not from a getting high point of view. I don't mean that, but I've heard people talk about the spiritual experience it is for them, that things happen when they're under the effect of that kind of opens their minds more. And I thought, I'd like my mind opened a little bit more. But I don't think I ever will, because it's a bit scary. Because I guess while that's happening, you really need to know that there's people around looking after you. And I don't want, and what if there really is, that's the way you get to talk to aliens? I don't know. Maybe aliens. Yeah, I don't know. I was actually, here I go. Blah, 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 blah. Karen's blah, blah, blah. I was watching Joe Rogan the other day, and he had a fellow on. Enzo and I had discussed this. The fellow that was in the army and said that he had to, an alien. Do you remember, Enzo? I've got a bit what but but I was watching Joe talk to him and another fellow, and parts of what he's saying I kind of think could be true, but the more I was watching, the more I thought, I don't know if I believe him.
Yeah, there's certain parts of his story where it gets a little off what you would normally. It's certainly not a full nuts and bolts UFO style thing, because that's the current buzz in the UFO circles right now is basically people controlling UFOs with their mind, doing like a CD5 type experience, kind of calling them in and supposedly being able to kind of command them.
Yeah, and I'm yet to be convinced of everything. I've got my theories, and that's a theory like everybody. Everybody has, it could be this or it could be that. And like I say, I don't think we're ever going to know unless Donald does something that's a miracle. But I think at the moment that's the least of our priorities. I think there's more to be done. But I would still like to know about the reverse engineering and things, because there is that big, even just from, forget aliens, forget anything, even from the point of view of where Tesla was inventing electricity and all that sort of thing, from that point to the late 60s, technology just went through the roof when you compare it to other decades before. Like, so something, I mean, we didn't get that smart that quick. Like, I don't know, just something jumped. It was like a jump. It's like we got a kickstart. Like someone come down and said, "You're just too slow." Here. Hurry up.
Rocks together, guys. Come on. Here's what you do.
Yeah, you see a turtle struggling on its back, and you're like, just give it over.
Give me a nudge.
Go. Yeah,
throw you a bone. Here you go.
Just hurry up.
Like our computer science and electronics have progressed exponentially. since the end of World War II. Everything else is kind of the same. We're still, burning gasoline engines and stuff like that. You using nuclear power to make hot water, which spins a turbine and creates electricity. Nothing like truly cosmic, like you would think would be on board a ship that can travel amongst the stars. So there's certainly some things where it could have, but the comparison I usually use is imagine, Christopher Columbus in his journey to the New World in 1492, when the first Bahamian beach that he rolled up on before he started, grabbing people and taking them back to show off his exhibits was, say, he discovered a mostly intact crashed F-35 fighter. And he got all his guys to gather up all the pieces and parts and load up the Santa Maria or the Pinta and all that stuff and trucked it back to Spain to research it. How long would it take them from 1492 technology to get something like that up and running, or at least build a facsimile of it? It would take a really long time. So that's kind of the same thing that we're looking at, if we were to discover a crashed alien spaceship, is there's whole new fields of science we would have to learn probably for a lot of it.
Yeah.
So
I don't
we already
know.
invented
It's totally interesting, but I just sort of think at the moment, so far as I'm concerned, I'm very interested. That's why I'm fascinated by Jess. Very interested in learning more about, because sometimes when you look back at how people, certain traditions and things that different tribes or different peoples had, there's little clues in those as to how they lived back then, and little clues. And when you look at the very fact that worldwide, no matter the religion, except for one, but no matter the religion, all in varying different ways, they're all the same. I know that putting them in, but they've all got creation, they've all got a flood, they've all got, someone that they look up to. But the thing I find nicest about tribal type things, not mainstream religion, is that they also appreciate the earth. Yes. The earth is it's Mother. Earth, Mother Earth, and Mother. So that's what I love about reading up and learning more about those, because they all knew you have to look after our planet. You have to move around a little bit, to make things right. So that's why I find it very fascinating. But we're all so alike. Every single human on the planet, we're all kind of the same at the root of it. But I don't know. It'll be way past my lifetime before that penny drops, I think. But I just find it all fascinating. I love it. So the more people I meet of varying different lives or cultures or whatever, I find it fascinating, because you can pick bits out of their culture that match your culture, and you go, that's probably where that came from, or wow, that I do like the way that Indian people. I remember watching Dances with Wolves. God, that was a long movie. But I do remember them talking about, I don't know if it's the same in every tribe, but how people got their names. And I thought, so I can't remember the name of the girl in it now, but he was Dances with Wolves. They named him Dances with Wolves because they were watching him distance and he was mucking around with the wolf. Yep. Kevin Costner. And I'm like, I just think talks too much.
She was stands with a fist, if I remember correctly.
That's why, because she was always defiant. She'd come out and go, So I just love it. I don't know. I just think everything's awesome. I was going to say someone, Kristen was saying before that she hates how we're talking about paranormal, because how paranormal groups go to Virginia City and go into a place and make up a story. In some ways, that's unfortunate, because they're going by either A, watching an older video of something, or B, believing the BS they're told by certain people that own certain places in Virginia City anyway. And Taylor knows all about that. Like, people made stories up. And that's why I know I've sort of learnt to keep my mouth shut a little bit now and just not, it's too much of a headache. I used to get very passionate and upset when I'd hear people talking about, for example, the Mackeys, Mr. Mackey and Mrs. Mackey and all that. I'd go, oh, she never lived in the house, and I'd get really cranky. I just like, no, I know the truth. And no matter how Taylor or Kristen or anyone else stands on a rooftop and says that's not the story, people will believe what they want to believe.
Right.
So people tune in and go, oh, the Washoe Club, demons, wank, wank. There's no demons in the Washoe Club. Like, do you know what I mean? It's just what people want to do. So don't worry, Kristen. I know that's not true. I know. If there are some of the stories, though, that like when you do the history behind Virginia City or any haunted location, as I've said it 100 times before, the truth is far more interesting than the BS they make up. If you just look at the people who lived and died in a building alone, it's like, wow, you can understand why there might be some energy left from a person or an event. You don't need to make up stories. At least I don't think so. Can everybody hear Muffin snoring?
Yes.
God,
Yes.
every now and then she goes really loud. At least you know it's not me. But yeah, see, so there you go. I think I ranted then.
Just a little.
So another
But
layer to that take of Virginia City's history, though, that's a little different than some other places of history. And, you know, before I go into my own Taylor rant on it, you know, I think it's not right to misconstrue the history, right, of a place, especially for, I think, what the person in the chat was talking about, like for financial gain of viewers or for your TV show, or like deliberately being misleading without giving like a wink, wink. And what do I mean by with a wink, wink? So the thing is with Virginia City's history, where there's like a little bit of a knot in the garden hose as far as like truth telling, is basically almost since we started, legends and folklore and distorting the truth have been a part of Virginia City's history and culture in a way that is a little different than a lot of other places, for example. So some of you may know this, some of you may not. Mark Twain, for example, was first published under the name Mark Twain, not under his birth name. He first used the name Mark Twain here in Virginia City when he was writing for our newspaper, the Territorial Enterprise. And, you know, he can tell a tall tale with the best of them. And so tall tales were in our newspaper, not in the way they are today, like fake news, right? But the point was they were to be social commentary presented as truth, but you had enough clues in there for the reader to understand that this is not how it happened, right? So they were fantastical tellings of things with maybe a kernel of truth or a hinting at a social commentary. And so Mark Twain did that tremendously during the 18 months or so that he was here in Virginia City, and he learned from some of the best. So a lot of the writers did that. So legends and lore and half truths are part of a fabric of Virginia City's history. But the difference is they always gave you a couple clues to know that, like, wink, wink, you know, there's a man behind the curtain here somewhere, right?
Was that common amongst a lot of newspapers back in those days?
I'm sure it was. You know, I can't speak for other places, even though I was a journalist. I just don't know of it to such a concentrated degree as what we saw with Mark Twain and his contemporaries, Dan DeQuille, Roland Daggett. We had a there's a whole book that someone is interested, they could purchase. It's called the Sazerac Lying Club. And that was a club here in Virginia City in the 1800s of who could tell the most fantastical lie. And they would all meet at the Sazerac Saloon and try and outdo each other with the most fantastical lie. So Ron James, a historian I brought up a little earlier, I'll put a link to his book. He came out with a book last year that it's called Fantastical Lies. Ron, I'm sorry if I got it wrong, but anyway, I'll put the link to his book in the chat if anyone's more interested in this. So it's interesting that lies and folklore are part and parcel, but you don't want to misconstrue at the same time. It's kind of a fine line.
Right. The reason I was asking that question is, do you think everybody was kind of doing that same thing back in the mid to late 1800s? Is there's a lot of stories from newspapers all across the country of giants and airships, things like that from that time period. It's like, and there's so many. It's like, is this something that just we need space to fill on the front page? Let's just put a story in there about somebody saw some weird thing in the sky. Is it something like that for some of those cases?
Again, I can't really speak too much beyond Virginia City's history because that's where I've studied, but that's exactly why Mark Twain did a lot of his stories. Like he point blank said, the one story that he wrote that actually got him challenged to multiple duels in one day and actually led to him actually leaving Virginia City because he didn't want to engage in a gunfight duel, was just because, hey, there was space to fill that day, right? Like you're saying. That's a great point, though, Enzo. I have a question for you. One of the oldest contemporary UFO stories about Ned in Texas, just outside of Dallas. Like, could that type of thing be a phenomenon of what you're talking about, where it's just, we had space to fill, or do you think that actually they were reporting on something that happened? What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, there's certainly some stories that there seems to be a trail of credibility. The one, I forget where exactly it was, where the airship hit the windmill and crashed, and they found the pilot, who apparently was very diminutive, that they buried in the local cemetery. And
that's the same one. Yeah, Ned.
Is that the same one? Okay. Yeah, there's a lot to that whole full story of where apparently some of the wreckage they just threw down a well, which then became contaminated with radioactivity types poisoning, and then they sealed off the well. And somebody raided where the grave of the unknown pilot was in the middle of the night. That kind of was part of it. So things like that, where there's a follow-on of things that are kind of true that apparently did happen, that kind of fleshes out the original story. But there were a lot of other stories. Kansas City had their own airship sighting over a period of several days, where even the mayor of Kansas City was seeing it, things like that. It was kind of going on all over. And I'd always wondered, it's like, is this all happening all at the same time? Or was there one original story and then everybody else kind of copied it for their local area of an airship seen in the sky, things like that. So yeah, for that particular one, I feel like there are elements of the truth in that for sure. But it's one of those things that happened so long ago, and what evidence apparently was left behind has been spirited away. I'm sure the Smithsonian had something to do with it. They always do that with all the Giants stuff for sure. But,
we had Giants not too far from here in Virginia City as well. Not in Virginia City. Exactly. Yeah, not too far from here as well. Yeah.
When we were planning our trip last year, when I was supposed to come out with Karen, I was like, "We're going to Lovelock Cave."
I haven't been. So when you guys come, let's go.
That's the other thing about the Giants, just a throwback to Indian beliefs, the Bible, all that sort of thing. Giants are mentioned everywhere too, before the floods, everywhere. And so that's also very interesting. I wonder what the Giants were, because for worldwide, but different people, different places all have the same story about giants. It's really weird. Is all I'll say. So there has to be something about that. One day, maybe they'll find out. Tanya did put up the link to that book, and I'm just looking at it now. I'm just seeing, Kindle. I can get a Kindle one. I'm going to get it now.
Yeah, there's got to be a that was written in the 1800s, so it's got to be public domain by now. So people should be able to find that on archive.org or Google Books or.
Okay. Yeah, on Amazon they had it for the Kindle, but you can still. I don't know how old it is, but
it's from the 1860s or 70s.
I'm trying to see where's the. I think it was back, Karen. Who did you say wrote it?
Was it Roland Daggett? I'm sorry.
It says here Fred Hart. Is that the same book?
Oh, Fred Hart. Yeah, Fred Hart. Right. And so he wrote Fred for the Territorial Enterprise as well. A lot of the stories in that book also are centralized around a saloon in another Nevada boomtown called Austin. But a lot of the guys in that story or in this book were Virginia Cityans, and so yeah, Fred Hart did write for the Territorial Enterprise, which is the newspaper March.
So it says set in the fictional town of Sazerac. Is that how you say Sazerac? Set in the fictional town of Sazerac, Nevada. This book is a humorous and satirical take on a small town politics and corruption. It says titular, but I like titillating. But the Titular Lion Club is a group of locals who convene regularly to tell tall tales and engage in other forms of mischief. The book features a colourful cast of characters and plenty of laugh-out-loud moments. So I've got it. I might look at that tonight. I'd love a hard copy. Oh, I'd love an original hard copy, but there you go. They're
not hard to find, Karen. You should be able to find one somewhat affordably, even the older ones.
Oh, cool. There you go. So there you go. So
and then, Kristen corrected my brain and put the name of the book that I was searching for that the historian Ron James had wrote, talking about Virginia City's sort of relationship with lies and truth. And so Kristen put that in the chat here. That's Monumental Lies. So I'll drop that link in here. And it was kind of cool when he released that book recently. He did a book signing at the Fourth Ward School Museum where I work. And when he was doing a passage reading from the book and Kristen was in the audience, and so was our dear friend Janice Oberdang and many other people interested in Virginia City's history. And when he got to a passage that he wanted to read that mentioned Lucius Beebe in a not so favorable light, because Lucius had a relationship with the truth that could be considered flirtatious at best at times. Before he launches into the passage, he looks over at me in the corner and he says, "Sorry, Taylor, I hope I don't offend you." But then he launches into this tale of how Lucius was one of the biggest lie spreaders of Virginia City's history.
Oh, no.
I don't think Lucius intended it that way, but he was, he didn't let the truth get in the way of a good story, as the old aphorism goes.
So what's that author's name? Ron.
So that's Ron James. And I'll put a link to the book here in the chat.
There it is. That's on Amazon as well. Amazon's usually my Monumental Lies, Early Nevada Folklore of the Wild West. Ronald M. James.
That's it.
Yeah. Good. I better get that one. Oh, Kindle, $34. Tell them they're dreaming. I think I'll get that one when I come to the city.
Hard copy on my end here looks like $21.
Well, that would be right. But remember, I'm in Australia.
Oh, right.
So our dollar is worth half of what yours is. So
Oh, they got
everything,
a good
because I
deal on
was,
some copies though. There on Amazon, I see.
oh, he's got a nice face. Where's his little
Yeah,
face? He looks like a nice man. Where does
yeah.
he
Both he
live?
they live in Virginia City's in Story County, Nevada, and they live in Story County, I believe, Iowa. But they used to live here in Nevada. Uh, and both Ron and Susan were instrumental in a lot of historic preservation projects all across Nevada, but especially here in Virginia City. Very integral in getting the history of the Fourth Ward School chronicled and getting the Fourth Ward School rebuilt and restored in the early phases of that effort, as well as too many to list. But
He's written, it says here, unless I'm wrong, Top Ronald M. So he's written a few different books.
oh, several. So yeah, if you scroll down there, there's The Roar and The Silence, which is one. If you're interested in Virginia City history, I do recommend picking that one up because it's a nice overview of Virginia City's history from the pre-Silver Strike era briefly, even up until the Bonanza era of the 1960s. So it's a nice overview across
Oh,
the eras there.
the Bonanza era. Taylor and I are talking next week. I'll make it. It won't be a live stream. I'm going to make it into a nice episode for everyone to watch because I want to pop some pictures in and things for you. But we're talking to somebody next week. How do you say her? Monette? How do we say her name?
So I know I was a little hesitant when I mentioned her name on the stream before, but she said I did a near perfect job. So I'll say the way I said it before. Monette Abou Reinhard. So she'll tell us exactly how to say it. But yeah, she wrote the great book, Virginia City versus Bonanza.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, well, Tom, but wasn't Tom the fire chief? Kristen? Sorry.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking to her next week, and she's going to tell us about her book and the links, all about Bonanza and different links and things. But also we're going to, Taylor is going to talk to her, and I'm going to ask some questions too about Lucius Beebe and his link to the Bonanza show. So that would be interesting. Yeah, Tom, well, he was the fire chief, yeah? Am I wrong? I'm sure he was.
Are you going to tell me that Haas and Little Joe aren't real? I'll be very upset.
Sorry.
Earmuffs, Enzo, earmuffs.
Yeah, I don't know how many people, after I said go to the first episode of Bonanza, where they're talking, they go down. It's really funny. It's funny looking at it now when you know what Virginia City actually looks like and everything, but they go down like it's literally like it must seem like they're going to be there in like 20 minutes from where they are, supposedly sort of the Tahoe side, I guess, is where their Bonanza's supposed to be. And they're going down to Virginia City to talk to so-and-so about such and such. And then it's like, boom, a couple of seconds later, they're there and they're riding into town. And the noises, if you listen to the noises of Virginia City, you hear Chinese people chatting and stuff. It's really funny. Like I watch it and I think,
no.
it's just, it's funny but cute. It's and it's definitely not Virginia City. Obviously, it's a set, but
It sounds great.
Yeah, but it's still cute. And then they go into an office, and I was sitting there listening to them talk, and they're talking about how much wood. This is the first episode. How much wood the Gould and Curry mine and the Yellow Jacket mine go through every year, and why they need Bonanza's trees. Like what Cartwright, we've got to get the rights to the trees on his property, and the first episodes really they're all rather gruff. Like Mr. Cartwright's like, I don't want to do nothing, and he's yelling at people, and the boys are fighting, and it's like, wow. I don't remember it being quite that rough. But yeah, so we're talking to Monette. You said Monette. we're talking to her next week. So I'll pop. It won't be long. Like I'll talk to her, and then I'll just. I'm not going to change anything. I'm just going to, as she's talking, rather than her have to put up slides and we've got to go what, I can just put in the pictures and do it that way so everyone can see something. But that'll be good. But yeah,
Those old Bonanza shows were pretty ridiculous, though. I think everybody went blind at one point and got their sight back, or lost their memory. Then they got it back, and they did actually do a Samuel Clemens episode where he had just arrived in the town. Of course, Hoss and Little Joe are in the middle of a barroom fight as he's walking. The mayor or the sheriff, whoever it was showing him around the town of Virginia City, and of course, you have the traditional Western, cowboy stuntman getting thrown through the plate glass window out into the street
with the Wilhelm scream in the background.
Yeah, all the tropes were there. It was
yeah. So not to go too much, because I know we'll go into this more in the interview with Manette, but that's especially season 1 of Bonanza is. Almost the majority of each episode is based on Virginia City's history. So you've got an episode based on Julia Bulette. You've got an episode on Sam Clemens turning into Mark Twain, as you mentioned. You've got episodes on our Philip Deidesheimer, who invented the square set timbering of the mines to make sure that your underground mines do not collapse. It gets stronger as force of earth underground, compresses it. So you've got a Deidesheimer episode. So all these episodes, especially in the first season, is sort of why my theory is that Lucius Beebe had something to do with Bonanza becoming a TV show, because he did have. Oh, that's my favorite. Yeah.
Michael Landon was cute.
Yeah, he was.
This is the episode that I've got it. I don't want to get a copyright strike. So, but this is Virginia City as it was back in the day, folks.
Oh, there it is. Wow, I might have to go there very soon.
Yeah, and let's see if we can find all the different things that happened around town, but. I'm just flicking forward. I'm trying to find where what you're talking about. That hang on, could this be it? Oh, they're off.
It was early on in the episode with the fight, the barroom brawl fight. It's like the way they portray it is, Mark Twain is basically straight off the train, and they're like, "Oh, hello, I'm the sheriff," and then there's this barroom brawl. It's
that reminds me of Stinky. There used to be a character in Virginia City. I never met him. I thought he was still alive and didn't know he passed.
That'd be me. Passing drinks. That's me right there.
You're going to be Stinky. I want to see the barroom fight. I better not get a copyright strike for this. I surely shouldn't.
No. They don't actually show you. If that's what you're looking for, you're going to be disappointed. So you don't have to need to go that deep into it.
Oh, what? And you said there was a bar fight.
Well, there was. Well, you're it was like right at the very beginning of the episode.
It couldn't have been.
You're way too deep into the episode for what I'm talking about.
Oh, here.
Right.
Yep, there it is.
Hoss and his brother were fighting.
Well, it was actually. Well, it was just before that. You're actually. It's right at the very beginning.
Oh, give me a second. I want to see the bar fight. There we go. Out comes Michael Landon, little Joe. There's a lot of fighting in Bonanza. The boys are always fighting.
Little Joe starts a fight and loses immediately, and then Hoss comes in and cleans up the whole place.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's funny, though, because the fight scenes are, like, overly elaborate. Like, somebody will, like, knock into someone, and they'll go clear across the room and take out a lamp.
Oh, yeah.
And then they get up and they go clear back across the room, and it's, like, really wide.
It's interesting, this little part where they are with the horses and stuff. It's funny, even though it's a set, it's kind of, for anyone who hasn't been to Virginia City, it still kind of looks like that, doesn't it? A little bit. If you stand in a
That's
certain
better.
place, though.
But better
That's
because we saw
Senator Clemens talking to the sheriff right there.
Yeah, if you stand in a certain place and just stare, it can look like that. So long as you don't, it doesn't look anything. I mean, it doesn't actually look anything like what you see on the show. But there you go. Good old Bonanza.
It used to.
Well, where's Samuel Clemens?
You already
Enzo
he was
just
the guy
pointed him out.
talking to the
last
sheriff.
week.
Look at that. Uh-oh. I don't think the ladies all dressed like that, did they, back in the day? Yeah. Anyway, that's enough reminiscing.
Yeah.
It's just a taster for the next episode. Yeah, get more Bonanza.
Yeah, but I just thought it was really cute that the first episode out off the thing was all about the mines and how much wood they burn, and they mentioned the Yellow Jacket mine. And for anyone who doesn't know,
Yeah,
I mean, there was
did
many.
their history at the beginning.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's why I think BB had to have had something to do with it, because the names, the mines, like if it was just a typical Hollywood type production, they would be prepared. But you know what I mean? They would have just did what they wanted. So someone had to have. Let's have a look. There it is.
Yeah, I was just getting a type of response.
Yeah, that she has to warn you, the steep hills that make up Virginia City is not flat like that. No, even just walking around. I walked when I was in Virginia City. Oh, go away. Sorry. When I was in Virginia City, I wanted to go to the art gallery. Taylor, what's it called? It used to be the hospital.
St. Mary's Art Center.
St. Mary's Art Centre. There was the fair on or whatever that day. So I was in town. I had a cup of coffee, and walking there was easy because it's all downhill. But then I wanted to walk home, and it was like, oh my God, it's all uphill. So it's all up, down, up, down. It's a very, very hilly place, unless you're just walking straight along the street. But if you've got to go down, it's all down or up. I don't know how they did it. When you first arrive, or when I first arrived, I guess anybody, wouldn't it be, Taylor? Anybody first arrives into Virginia City, you find it hard to get your breath a lot.
Yeah.
Because you're up high.
High altitude.
So, so walking up walking up a set of stairs that you could do no worries any other time, good luck. It's like...
I've lived in Kansas too long. There is no uphill, downhill around where I live in Kansas. So, and then of course you add elevation on top of that. I'll certainly need to be doing some working out before I go out there.
Yeah, you gotta train for it for sure. But the upside is, according to Lucius Beebe, and he wrote about this in his newspaper when he revamped the Territorial Enterprise in the 50s a lot. I guess the upside of that is apparently, and it's a myth, but high altitude, you have less of a chance of getting a hangover. So he always liked to tout that as a nice tourist visiting point, that you can visit our many saloons and not feel the same effects as on the flatland.
I will experiment and see if that's true.
I can tell you a story because I don't drink anymore. My first time in Virginia City, I went to the Piper's Opera House, the bar downstairs in the Piper's Opera House, and I was drinking gin and Coke, and the lady behind the bar, can't remember her name now, an older lady with greyish hair.
Is that Lisa? That's probably Lisa.
Yes, Lisa. She was getting, I don't know why, but when she would pour me a gin and Coke, I haven't got, imagine that's just the cup, right? Gin and the Coke.
Yeah, that's
and
Lisa.
I was at the point where I was already, I don't drink, so alcohol's like, ooh, but I'd already had a few.
Gin and
yeah.
And
I have to pay Lisa extra not to give me that strong of a drink, like to cut it in half.
Someone took me back to my room. I was staying in the B Street bed and breakfast. Someone took me back to my room. I remember sort of that much. But I woke up in the morning on the floor. But I did not have a headache or a hangover. So Lucius might be right.
There you go.
There you go. I wasn't. I had been sick through the night because it was just not good for your body to keep that kind of thing inside. But I had no headache, no nothing. Oh, Lewis. Hello, Lewis. Hey, guys, Lewis has got an awesome channel, The Nerd Report. And he's been covering, if you're into the gossip of the day, he covers everything. He covers UFOs. He covers all sorts. He's been, this morning, he did the plane crash thing. But he's also been covering the Blake Lively thing, you know. If anyone's into Hollywood gossip, Blake Lively and, what's his name? Justin Belder. There's some movie they made called, I've forgotten. It's so, thank you, Tanya. There's the link. Oh, thank you, Lewis. Lewis, this is what you get. Hang on. This is for you, Lewis.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You're now a member.
There you go,
What I
Lewis.
was looking at in that video.
Yeah, Lewis is awesome. But yeah, just thank you, Lewis. But just go check out Lewis's channel, The Nerd Report, because he covers everything. Really, he talks about everything. But at the moment, so whatever's kind of currently happening with the plane crashes or Hollywood type stuff, and he's also interviewed a lot of very famous Hollywood people. They're all on your channel, aren't they? Lewis, all those interviews you used to do, or is that on the other one? He had another, so he'd go and interview Hollywood stars when they were promoting their movies and stuff like that. He's even met Keanu Reeves. God damn it. I was thinking, actually, hey, Lewis, you should think about this if you're listening still. The White House is opening up. You can be press and apply if you're a social media person, apply to be a press person and go to the White House and get in there and ask questions. You should do that, Lewis. I would do that if I lived there.
They opened it up to independent journalists, which is...
Yeah, you could do it, really? Taylor.
Us, yeah.
Taylor could... We could go...
Professional, professional journalism background. Well...
that's our group. Yeah, you've got a show, you've got a channel, and you discuss. You've got a channel, and you discuss topics like you're doing journalism. So definitely.
I was talking about the publication I worked for.
Oh,
some people would say that wasn't professional, but I say it was.
Yeah, of course it was.
Have you seen some of the other people that hang out in the press room? Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. A lot of people that are in the press room.
If Brandon's still in here, right, Carol? You know what I'm talking about.
Those elbows to get those CNN nerds.
I think it's a stretch that they call themselves journalists, muckrakers. But there you go. Oh, is that an Australian saying? Muckrakers.
Oh,
we say that.
You got
it. Yeah. It's a little antiquated. But yeah, it's still here for sure. Now it's just fake news, right?
It's an older code, but it still works.
Oh, thank you, Tanya. No, I was a reporter. I was.
Hang on a second. What is it, Enzo? Just say, what's Trumpy call the news?
Fake news.
That's right. That's my Trumpy. I should get some. But yeah, no, I like Taylor is a journalist.
Well, I was.
Taylor.
I was.
But you still. Well, now you're just trying to like. Yeah, but
I did work for a award-winning publication. For over a decade.
I reckon that if you want to go to the White House, wouldn't that be awesome to go into the White House, into the press room and sit there, and then whoever comes out and you get to ask a question. Say, what's for lunch? They go, yeah. They'd say, you can't possibly be a real journalist. I'd go, yeah, nah, I'm not. I'm just an Australian.
Oh, no, it's a perfect, legitimate journalist question.
Yeah, what's for lunch? Actually, what is for lunch? What is
what's to drink? Always.
Yeah, like I'd probably say, hey, when you finish here, like, is there a canteen? Like, do you go into an area where there's lots of tables and you all get a meal, or can you
As I
order what you
understand
want?
it, there's a lot of bars in the neighborhood, and that's where a lot of there's a lot of famous stories, especially like from the Fox News gang, where they would go hang out at the bar after their shows and just tear the place up.
BB's Day as well, not unique to Fox News. It was called Bleak's Artists and Writers Club in New York City. It was right across the street from the Herald Tribune office, and there's that's where you get a lot of your stories. And think about it, the a lot of the big happenings of America's founding happened right there in taverns, right? It's a cultural meeting place. It's where people say a little more than they should, and hot gossip spreads, and it makes sense.
Yeah. No. Oh well. Yeah. What's for dinner and what's for dessert, and where do you eat, and who cooks it, and what qualifications do you have to be the cook at the White House? Do you need a gardener? I'd like to do the gardening. And what pets do you keep on the property? So I'd be asking questions like just normal people want to know. And actually, does Trumpy have a dog? Normally they all take their doggies to the White House.
I'm not sure about this time around, but the first time, that was kind of a big criticism for Trump. He was one of the first in recent years to not bring a pet. At least
maybe he's got a cat.
But I don't know about this time around. I'm not sure.
I could make a joke there, but I better not. I'll stuff it. I'll make a joke. I'm Australian. He might have a cat because he does like pussycats. Do you get it? Do you get it?
Just like to grab them, I hear. It's in the start.
No, that's all right. Well, most men like to grab onto those. So, fair enough. Yes, that's right, Kevin. Yeah, I can be the human interest reporter. So they can ask all the who said what and who's stabbing each other in the back questions. And I'll just ask the normal questions like, what kind of vegetables are you growing in the garden? And, what are you doing at Easter time? And does everybody that works for you get a basket of eggs? Like the questions, the things we all want to know. At Christmas time, do you give everybody a hamper with a cake? And like, what's Christmas bonus if you work at the White House? There you go.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I looked it up. So he is the only president besides Andrew Jackson to not have a pet at the White House. And they asked him why, and he said because he didn't have any time to devote to take care of one.
That's true.
Why he doesn't.
Wait a minute.
So I think that's good.
Didn't Jackson have that parrot?
Oh, parrots
He
are
did-
a bit different. Just
He did when he was. I think it said he did when he was younger, but he didn't have it when he was president.
He had this parrot that would swear.
Yeah.
In opportune times because it picked up on what Andrew Jackson would say.
That's hilarious.
Well, that's the thing. I think
that's a legend. I just heard that one.
I often thought to myself, if you were the president, you are busy. Like, it's not like you get out. Well,
yeah, Kevin, right. Oh, sorry,
president you are, and if you're on a beach. But generally speaking, you're too busy to go and lay on the beach. So you wouldn't really have time for a pet. Like, you just wouldn't. And, so I'd say, therefore, it's not a silly thing not to have a dog running around.
Have you seen Barron Trump? He probably couldn't afford, even being a billionaire, to afford a pet and trying to feed Barron. That kid's a giant.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. So, yeah.
It says that while Andrew Johnson didn't bring any pets into the White House, he did for a short while take care of some mice he found in his bedroom. So he kind of had pets.
Oh, Johnson. I'm sorry. I thought I heard Jackson.
Well, that's the thing. You're going to have time to have a parrot.
Oh.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. But I don't know.
I might have said Jackson on accident.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. But it'd be interesting to know all the pets because I don't. Did Reagan have a pet?
Yeah, he
did
had
have
dogs.
a chimpanzee.
A couple of dogs, didn't he?
Yeah, he had dogs.
Clinton had Socks, the cat. The Obamas had Bo, the dog.
The black dog, the fluffy thing, wasn't it like a poodle
the
or
curly
something?
dog.
Yeah.
And then Socks, the cat. And then I don't know about Reagan's pets.
No, probably dogs. But I think it wouldn't be so much the president's pets as maybe the wife or something. And
The family.
Yeah, but I don't know. But yeah, I'd love to go and just ask all those questions, things that you'd have to Google and look up like that to find the answers out to. But yeah, I don't know. I'd like to. If I lived in America, I would be applying. So I just think you should. I just think, and definitely, Lewis is probably gone now, but definitely Lewis, he's a reporter. He interviews people. He should, because he does a lot, and then he can just travel to Washington and go in, and that'd be cool. I don't know if he's still listening, Lewis, but that'd be cool to see him in the White House press. But yeah, I want to. What's his name? Peter Ducey, the reporter that goes in there and he'll ask the cheeky questions. Is that his name, Peter Ducey from Fox?
Yeah,
He's
it's one of the Duceys. I always get them mixed up. There's two different brothers or cousins. I don't know what they are, Duceys, but yeah.
Yeah, it's Peter. He'll go in there and he'll ask a question, and some of the questions are just really, really cheeky. He used to stir that other chick up. I can't think of her name. The girl
She got flustered really quickly. Yeah.
Oh, he just stir her up straight away. He'd ask really just what we were thinking type questions, and she'd go, but she'd get cranky. She wouldn't always smile. Oh, there you go. Way back when they grazed sheep on the White House lawn.
Yeah, it
thanks,
takes care
Kevin.
of the grass.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah,
I looked it up. So Reagan had dogs and cats. So Reagan had 2 dogs. He had Lucky and Rex. And then they had 2 cats named Cleo and Sarah.
Aw.
I'm just trying to think.
Looking that up.
Was it bedtime for Bozo or Bonzo or
Bonzo.
something?
Bonzo.
Yeah. Bonzo. That's it. Yeah. Was that only a film? I must have watched that tons of times then when I was a kid, because I remember that.
Every time it was time for my bedtime, my mom would always tell me, "All right, bedtime for Bonzo, time to go to bed."
Yeah.
I had no idea what she was talking about.
That was the movie. Bedtime for Bonzo.
Oh.
Bonzo is a chimpanzee.
I should try and find that and watch it again. But there you go. What's that? So I was just reading a headline and had a giggle. So I don't know. But I have headlines. I haven't figured out how to turn notifications off. So notifications pop up and I look over and it gives me a headline and I'm like, I like reading things. News just then, big medevac helicopter. Oh, well, yeah, we knew about that. We were talking about that when we came on.
Yeah,
that happened. What
sad.
time? How many hours ago did that happen?
Probably about 5 or so hours ago.
Yeah. We were talking about that earlier, Dee, just that it's very, very sad. Not to mention people on the ground that are obviously going to be casualties. But, yeah, that's horrible. But actually, that was a question I did have of Enzo. We were talking before we came on, and we were talking because my boys, their father was in the Air Force, and he was what we call here a metal basher. I don't know what you call it in America, but maybe similar to the job you had, Enzo, where you just make things for the craft.
Yeah, sheet metal or structural. Yeah.
Well, that's what he was. But I was talking about bird strikes and what that must do to a plane. And Enzo said he could tell me tons of stuff about that. But yeah, I don't know.
It's a problem. It depends on blame the drones.
Who's blaming drones? It's not drones. It's just bad luck.
This particular aircraft that crashed today had only been. It only crashed like 3 miles from where it took off, so it was it took off and almost immediately
Went
crashed.
down.
So there's something certainly. Honestly, bird strikes aren't out of the possibility, but actually, if you pull up my share, I've got a whole series of bird strike type damage things where you can certainly see. We'll pull this one up a little bit. Just this is like one of the engines where you can certainly see the
Oh,
chunks of the blade, and we'll
it must have
pull
been a
Laura
big
in.
bird.
Laura before the show talked a little bit how her father makes some of these turbine
Yeah,
blades.
the
back in the
turbines.
day. Yeah, basically the gist of it is, obviously the larger the bird, the larger the damage is going to be. This particular part of the plane, like we see in the upper right hand here, this is the radome. This is where your aircraft radar and all that stuff is at the very nose of the plane. That nose
Oh,
section is very thin. It's basically a fiberglass type material. So that's the very front point of the plane. So that's where you're going to have your first contact in a lot of cases, and it's the thinnest part, so it causes a lot of damage. That's certainly not going to make your plane crash necessarily. It's if it hits the windshield, of course, that's very bad. That kind of a thing. But we're basically talking pigeon or larger size for damage, and the big thing is to try and keep to try and monitor your whole airfield area to kind of keep birds away. The group that I was associated with after I retired, I got kind of folded in as a natural to work for the one that worked for the base that I worked at, where we had a border collie rescue kind of a organization because everybody thinks border collies are cool and all that stuff. The thing is they're super crazy focused. They have to have something to do. They are a working dog. Unlike what you see in TV commercials or movies or whatever, which they are very intelligent, they have to have something to do. They're not one of those, okay, I'm going to go to work for a few hours and come back. No, the whole place will be destroyed because they need stuff to do. And we retrained them as the group I was associated with to basically not hunt, but literally just to scare off. They never would grab a bird or anything like that. All the local airfield for like a 5-mile radius around the base of any kind of ponding areas where ducks or geese might go or things like that, where any kind of habitation where birds would like hang out, they would try and scare it off because a dog would basically be a natural predator that a bird would recognize as, if there's a predator hanging out here, I'm not going to have anything to do with it. So we're not going to, nest or hang out, not going to loiter in a specific area in this area because I know there's a predator here. That's how we used our border collies for that organization, where we had a 5-mile radius around the base and our total, bird strikes dropped through the floor just from basic stuff because we actually got associated with local farmers that had farming properties around the base and stuff like that, and we would ask, do you mind if we run the dogs through there occasional? And they were more than happy to do it, because if you get like a flock of geese that decides they're going to come in, especially in the early spring where they're tearing up those tender shoots that are popping up, that can wreck a farming area. They're more than happy to let us come in there and run. Because that's all we would do, is just let the dog run around, basically be seen, which would scare off all the local birds and stuff like that, so they wouldn't hang out there over the period of a few days.
When I went to Canada, Niagara Falls, I was super thrilled because there was a man there near where you get your eats. You're at the bottom of Niagara Falls and there's food stores and stuff. And there was a man there with it had to have been a hawk. It wasn't an eagle. It was a hawk. It was a big hawk. And I went, oh, wow. But his hawk was there to scare off the birds that were annoying people while they were eating. But he told me that the other job that he does with the hawk when he's not at Niagara Falls is that the airports because he lets the hawk go up and it scares off the birds if they've got a trouble with birds before
Yep.
the planes take off. So there you go, birds and
Falconry
dogs.
falconry is an important part. Dog, it's a kind of a combination of all of that stuff. Is usually whenever we would get like a new commander that would come in and have anything to do with it, because I ran that program at the base. It's like 7 miles north of here. That whenever we get a new commander, it's like, why don't you just go out there and shoot them? It's just birds.
Oh,
And that sounds good. And technically, you could like put every, if there's like 3,000 people on the base, if you gave every one of them a shotgun and unlimited ammo and spent a couple of days just shooting every bird on the entire place, that would work for about a week. Nature abhors a vacuum. If birds kind of move around in a very specific area, from the smallest meadowlark that's just hunting insects in the high grasses, all the way up to red-tailed hawks in my area are the big one, and the occasional peregrine falcon will migrate through in the fall. That was the other thing, is where I live near Wichita, Kansas. We are right in the middle of what's considered, in wildlife terms, the central flyway for most migratory species. They would all funnel through this general specific area. I've seen birds that shouldn't exist. They don't normally, they aren't normally here, but they migrate from north to south, in the winter, and the reverse in the spring. I've seen flocks of 50 great American white, or is it great white American pelicans, which are monstrous. They're as far out as I could stretch my arms. Their wings are bigger. They are huge, and they mostly spend their summers in the Hudson Bay up in Canada, and then they migrate in the fall down to the Gulf of Mexico. Excuse me, Gulf of America.
The Gulf of America, thank you.
Yes. And they pass through here because where I live, we don't have any, major mountain ranges off to the west or the east, so they kind of funnel right through here. So I've seen a lot of crazy wildlife that rolls through here. I was just talking the other day with Jess and some friends on their show how the crazy owls I have seen. There's every fall we would always see two burrowing owls, which are very small, super cute, have this little teeny tiny round head that would scurry around, and they actually like burrow into the ground and they make like kind of a little nest inside of the ground. But they're just passing through, so they're not necessarily nesting. But for about a week, we'd see them hanging around the airfield, and then they'd be gone. So that's a big deal for aviation, because as it turns out, birds versus plane, birds are always going to lose. Planes may lose. When it comes to planes and as far as damage and is it going to bring down a plane, it's going to have to be in the engines, which we certainly saw a few years ago when we saw. Yeah, there's some burrowing owls. They got a little tiny head. But when it comes to we saw a prime example of this several years ago, if you remember, where plane was taking off out of New York, hit a bunch of geese. They all got ingested into the engine, which of course your engine's going to fail then, and they ended up having to land in the East River. Made a whole movie about it with various people. It's one of those interesting things.
Yeah. Was that a bird strike?
That was a bird strike, because it ended up being like 30 or more geese that they had. Because there's an issue with, especially around any kind of, major aerodrome like that is, the emus. That's the one they don't talk about. But
yes, the one we don't talk about.
We don't talk about the emu wars around here. But there's certainly issues with having because everybody likes to feed the birds. The birds are cute. Like in the spring they have their little babies. It's kind of cool. Those babies will habitate to where they were born, so they will return to those same areas. So you kind of have to use that's like the company I work for with the dog, which was an all on the ground kind of a thing, versus a falconry program. Don't get me wrong, falconry has a good place. But that's only part of the puzzle to try and keep an aircraft, an aerodrome is what it's called, as far as the entire airport area, safe for wildlife like that. And of course, there's other wildlife too, because like where I live, we have coyotes and the occasional deer and things like that. Which we did have a coyote that basically got squashed by a plane that landed in the middle of the night. It was out hunting the infield area of the thing, and it ran straight, which of course is the way that the plane was landing, and it basically did a Wile E. Coyote right on top of him. So there's something to the old Wile E. Coyote tale. So.
It was probably the Roadrunner's fault.
It was he had too much faith in those Acme rocket skate products.
That's right.
They're not as good as you think.
I always wanted that Roadrunner to get caught in the end. He was so mean, he was such a bully. I think they made a cartoon where he does. Someone said, I can't remember. I think somewhere out there.
There was one where, like, for whatever reason, the coyote was either really tiny or the Roadrunner was really tall, and he was able to catch it. And he's like, "Now what do I do?" Yeah.
Well, there you go.
But aircraft, it is a problem because you got to consider basically. When you start getting above pigeon size, that's when you're going to be dealing with a lot of damage. We talked a little bit before the show about how flimsy an aircraft actually is, because like the whole leading edge of a wing on an aircraft that you're flying on, it's just super thin sheet metal. There's not a whole lot of structure to it because it's designed as an aerofoil to allow air to pass over it. It's not designed to deflect 30-pound goose, or anything like that, which it does happen. So,
because that's what I was saying there.
Birds do fly at night, which is something that I've certainly had to get into arguments with people over the years before. We had one, a few years back, one of our own KC-135s here up at McConnell Air Force Base. It was about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night doing local pattern work. And they didn't know for sure. They thought they had bird strikes only because of the strobes on the plane briefly illuminated movement outside the window. And then they heard pop, 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 pop on the plane. They're like, oh, we think we hit some birds. They landed. They hit about 12 of them. They were they were snow geese, which are a little smaller than Canada geese, if anyone's familiar with that in North America. They're all brilliant white with a little bit of black on their very wingtips, and they specifically fly at night because it's cooler for them, because they build up a lot of heat as they fly, and because of humanity, they can navigate from town to town using the lights. They actually do follow highways and tracks and stuff like that. Yes.
That is one clever bird.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking at the time. And,
we got to get out of here.
We've got to get out of here. I've gone 16 minutes over. I tried to keep to 2 hours because people get bored with us otherwise. Oh, look at the pretty cat. What's the cat's name again?
Twilight Zone.
Twilight Zone. That's it. I've got a cat that looks exactly the same, except his name is Child Cat. We did call him Crowley, but he gets called Child Cat because he's a sook. But he looks like Twilight Zone.
I remember zooming with you around your house. I'm like, oh, it looks just like my kitty.
Yeah. And today's been good. I've had fun. And Jess, thank you so much for showing us all that stuff. If you missed it, Jess, because Jess is from the Blackfoot tribe, And she showed us earlier. So if you've missed it, go back to the start. She showed us all of her dancing regalia and stuff. Some of her costume, and there was stuff to learn. So if you came in late, go back and she also tells us a few little different stories, which was good. And Taylor, thank you so much. I look forward to chatting to you again on your Wednesday, my Thursday morning, I think. And we're going to interview your friend and our author of a wonderful book associated with Bonanza and everything. And so I'll have that up. I'll do that, and I'll have that up and running probably that night or the next day. So it's not going to be a long thing. I just want to put it together nicely so we've got the pictures and links and everything done correctly. And Kristen in the chat, thank you for popping your 10 cents worth in there for us to know different things we didn't know. Laura, thank you for coming and saying g'day. Laura, just pop down in the chat if you can quickly the link to your magazine. So if anyone wants to, it's free, guys. It's just a link, and it's a paranormal type magazine. But I wrote a story. I wrote about the Valentine's Day massacre.
Yeah, it was a good one.
So, Valentine's Day is coming up, but it was just a quick story because everybody knows I love the gangsters. I love the mafia. Oh, God, that sounds a bit weird, doesn't it? I'm just fascinated with that history, how they got to where they got to. But, so I knew a lot about that, but I just put together a small story with pictures, so don't worry. If you like gore, there is one picture. But, so Laura put a link to that in the chat.
Oh, wrong one.
That's not what's that?
No, that's not what I was supposed to post. Sorry.
No. And Kevin, thank you for joining us, and everyone. And Tanya, thank you for being here this week. We really did this year. If you go back to last week's episode, we talked about you. We were like, "Where's Tanya?" But thank you so much. So Jeff, Laura, Taylor, love you to bits, and Enzo, our resident science guy. Actually, so you ended up talking about science type stuff. So there you go. That's all. Yeah. So I'll say goodbye now, as will everybody else, and I'll see you all same time, same back channel next week. And look out for the episode in between that I'll put up. And I am working on content. I'm just slow at doing it because I start and then I get sidetracked. Something will happen here and I get sidetracked. It's all right. You can see us all once a week. That's more important, isn't it, Jess? So we'll see if Jess and Taylor are going to be here again next week, if they can. I don't want to put pressure on them, but I love it. And have a good week. And everyone try and stay safe and stay away from airplanes for the week. And be kind.
Just give it a rest for a week or so. It'll be fine.
Yeah, just be nice to everybody and have a lovely weekend. And I'll see you all. Okie dokie. You guys can hang around if you like, so I can say proper goodbye.